Jamuna Tira Banasari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Sridham Mayapur Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jasoda Nandana Brajadana Ranjana Jasoda Nandana Brajadana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banasari Jamuna Tira Banasari Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jai Radha Madhava Radha Radhe. Jai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Gaur Pimanande. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa. Parivraj Gasad Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace. Sirabai Charangar Vindabak Srila Prabhupada ki. Nanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Skandi Viti, Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Samavata Bhakta Vrinda ki. Harinama Sankirtan ki. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Dainitai Gaura Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada ki. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Dakshurindalitam Jena Sri Guru Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutta Kadamahyam Dadati Swam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavansya Sri Rupam Sahagradatam Sahagana Gunatan Vitam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaga Vitam Scha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagare Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Hari Priya Vansakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Narayanam namaskritya devim sarasatim vyasam mudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare
Om
Hare.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om 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 Sarabhyai Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyai Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyai Namaha.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
Mukam karoti vasalam pagum langayate girim. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to morning Bhagavatam class, continuing Canto Hare Krishna. Canto 1, Chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti. Okay. Text 35. Yes? Yes. Bhave asmin klishyamananam avidya kama karma bihi sravana smaranarhani karishyan iti kechana bhavesmin klishyamananam avidya kama karma bihi Savana smaranarhani Karishyan iti kechana Bhavesmin klishyamananam Avidya kama karma bihi Savana smaranarhani Karishyan iti kechana Bhavesmin klishyamananam Avidya kama karma bihi Sravana smaranarhani Karishyan iti kechana.
Bhavesmin
Bhavesmin klishyamananam
avidya kama karma
avidya kama karma bhihi
Ravana smaranarvani
Sravana smaranadhani
Karishyanati kechana
Karisyan iti kesana
Bhavesmin
Klishyamananam
avidya kama karma
avidya kama karma bhi
Sravana smarana hani
Sravana smaranadhani
Karishyan iti kechana
Karisyan iti kesana
Bhavesmin
Bhavesmin klishyamananam
avidya kama karma
avidya kama karma bhihi
Savana sarana hani
Sravana smaranadhani
Karishan iti kechana
Karisyan iti kesana Bhave
Bhave
in the material creation
in the material creation
Asmin
Asmin
this
this
Klishyamananam
Shamananam
of those who are suffering from
those who are suffering from
avidya,
avidya
nescience,
nations
kama,
kama
desire,
desire
karma bihi,
karma bihi
by execution of fruitive work,
by execution of fruitive works
sravana,
Sravana
hearing,
hearing
smarana,
Smarana
remembering,
remembering
adhani,
Adhani
worshipping,
worshipping
karisyan,
Karishan
may perform,
may perform
iti,
iti
thus,
thus
kechana,
Kechana
others.
others
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.
And yet others say that you appeared to rejuvenate the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on, in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. Repeat after me. And yet others say,
And yet others say
Hare Krishna, and yet others say
and yet others say
that you appeared
that you appeared
to rejuvenate
to rejuvenate
the devotional service
the devotional
of
service
hearing,
of hearing,
remembering,
remembering,
worshipping, and so on,
worshipping, and so on,
in order that the conditioned souls
in order that the conditioned souls
suffering from material pangs might take advantage
might take advantage
and gain liberation.
and gain liberation.
Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that He appears in every millennium just to reestablish the way of religion. The way of religion is made by the Supreme Lord. No one can manufacture a new path of religion, as is the fashion for certain ambitious persons. The factual way of religion is to accept the Lord as the supreme authority and thus render service unto Him in spontaneous love. A living being cannot help but render service because he is constitutionally made for that purpose. The only function of the living entity is to render service to the Lord. The Lord is great, and living beings are subordinate to Him. Therefore, the duty of the living being is just to serve Him only. Unfortunately, the illusioned living beings, out of misunderstanding only, become servants of the senses by material desire. This desire is called avidya, or nescience. And out of such desire, The living being makes different plans for material enjoyment centered about a perverted sex life. He therefore becomes entangled in the chain of birth and death by transmigrating into different bodies on different planets under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Unless, therefore, one is beyond the boundary of this nescience, one cannot get free from the threefold miseries of material life. That is the law of nature. The Lord, however, out of his causeless mercy, because he is more merciful to the suffering living beings than they can expect, appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service comprised of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, cooperating, and surrendering unto him. Adoption of all the above mentioned items or any one of them can help a conditioned soul get out of the tangle of nescience and thus become liberated from all material sufferings created by the living being illusioned by the external. This particular type of mercy is bestowed upon the living being by the Lord in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Translation again. And yet that you appear to rejuvenate the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshiping, and so on, in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. So this is the fourth proposition being presented by Queen Kunti Devi here in terms of why the Lord appears. That began, today is 35, began in 32. Some say that you're born for the glorification of pious kings and to please King Yadu. That was 32, then 33. Others say you're born because of the prayers of Vasudeva and Devaki. That was 33. Then 34, others say because of Lord connected with Lord Brahma, who is your son and who prayed for you. And then today, some say you appear to revive or rejuvenate devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshiping. So, yes, unless the Lord Himself in the material world or sends His representatives, the conditioned, the Baddha Jiva, conditioned Nityabadha. Nityabadha, that's an interesting term actually because Nityabadha means eternally conditioned. But actually, I mean, one theoretically could be eternally conditioned, but one is not meant to be eternally conditioned. That term is used to indicate how when the living entity who has misused his minute independence does come in the material world, he becomes conditioned for a long time. Such it's cannot be traced out actually, and because it's such a long state of conditioning, it's extremely difficult to come out of that conditioning. So the Lord, either personally or through his incarnations or his representatives, comes to one of the reasons, yeah. Um, we could say in many ways the primary reason to help the conditioned soul revive his original mm, consciousness, his original position uh, of an eternal servant of the Lord, especially through the process mm, that is being referred to here, the 9 processes of devotional service that are that make up actually the whole, we call the science of bhakti or the science of devotional service, of which the foremost important are hearing and remembering, Sravanam Kirtanam. So that is the understanding and the vision actually of the devotees. Mm. Pandita Samadarshinaha. One sees not only human beings as being potentially devotees, but one sees all living entities actually as Krishna devotees. That that consciousness was um, very much present when our former, what is it, um, Minister for Agriculture and Cow Protection, Balabhadra. I think you might have met him or know about him, yeah. Balabhadra Prabhu, for many, many years. He actually, I think before he was appointed as Minister for Cow Protection, he had already started, he had registered one organization that is still existing, is COW, International Society for Cow Protection. Very nice website actually for anyone wanting information. So he would go to, he traveled to many places in Europe also. He might have gone to Hungary also. I know he went to many places in Europe. And he had that understanding, very nice understanding, that everything that is growing in your garden, they're devotees. Bhakta tomatoes, he would call them. How many devotees you have? 4 or 5 devotees in our temples. How many cows you have? He would go on like that. So it's a nice understanding. I mean, everything that grows because there's a jiva, isn't it? We are, so many jivas are here, right? And and therefore they want to, they can serve the Lord. We can help them to serve the Lord. Isn't it? Like flowers that are growing, that's their service to Krishna. Krishna likes flowers, likes garlands. And so when we develop this kind of understanding, then that this naturally helps us to revive rather our original consciousness of Jiva Swarupoy Krishna Nityadas. And when we maintain, the more we maintain and this type of understanding, then we are able to nicely be engaged. That's the whole purpose of Krishna consciousness, to be engaged nicely in serving the Lord. And when we, as Krishna confirms in the Bhagavad Gita, susukam kartam avyayam, devotees who sometimes unfortunately leave Krishna consciousness, they've not properly or sufficiently experienced the satisfaction that is there in actually serving the Lord, in serving the devotees, in serving the mission of the Lord, etc. So, so it's important to develop that 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 kind of we can say happiness or satisfaction, which is the natural position or the natural quality of the jiva, of the living entity. And if that is not there, then that means that there is something not right, something that is preventing us. And generally it's because we are not properly putting into practice or applying what the Shastra is recommending, isn't it? The various, that's why Prabhupada would emphasize again and again the importance of this, we could say guidebook, the complete science of devotional service by Sridhar Goswami is one of the um, foundational books in Krishna consciousness, and whatever we want to learn um, about Krishna, about devotional service, the process of bhakti is very elaborately, nicely presented in the pages of the Bhagavatam. I mean, pages of the Nectar of Devotion. It's, of course, also referred to in so many places as well, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, and and we see in these prayers presented by Queen Kunti Devi, she is able to so nicely remember her Lord, to remember Krishna, and especially uh, very spontaneously she's able to glorify him through these wonderful prayers that she is that she's reciting here. So that is part of it's all connected with the reasons that Krishna himself mentions in the Bhagavad Gita. This is part of, isn't it, Dharma samsthapanarthaya, to reestablish the principles of religion. Prabhupada comments in the purport here a little bit also how he is referring to that statement actually of made by Jamaraj, isn't it? Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The principles of religion are established, originate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's why there is ultimately only one religion, or we, of course, generally we don't say this because other people also say, yeah, but my religion, no, your religion, and there is fighting. But there is one actually eternal religion, which is what Srila Prabhupada very, very expertly actually introduced and presented in the Western countries, not by putting one religion at odds with another religion, not by because actually very often people who have even now people who generally represent a particular religion, any religion, they will present their particular brand of religiosity as uh, the only one, and reject the others, which was not how Srila Prabhupada explained and presented, and which is not what is um, explained also in the Shastra. And one can practice different forms of religion just like one can practice or follow instructions from different teachers. You know, like in a college or university, there are many teachers who may have knowledge of the same subject matter, but one must know what are the what is it? What we call the principles of religion. Uh, Religions may vary from one place to another, from one teacher to another, but what is not meant, and this is very important uh, consideration, very important subject matter, because presently within our own society, there is uh, some confusion regarding some of these aspects, isn't it? That that we can adjust according to, well, that aspect is there to some extent. Kala Desha Patra, one can adjust some things. One can adjust some secondary, just like Prabhupada adjusted the chanting, how many times to chant, because as we have heard before, his own spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, had stated, and Prabhupada mentions that if one doesn't chant 64 rounds, he's not a human being. But Prabhupada introduced or adjusted to 16 rounds, as we know. So that's like a secondary instruction. Primary instruction is that we should chant the holy name, especially it is the Yuga Dharma for this age of Kali. So what can be adjusted and what cannot be adjusted? Uh, Small example, the whole topic of, we discussed some time back, the whole topic of co-education. In the Western countries, it is quite um, standard in pretty well all the colleges and universities, and in the mentality of people also. What's the problem? That's, that's how it is. We should not artificially separate men and women. Whereas in the Vedic culture, and as explained by our acharyas and by Srila Prabhupada, within that culture there is built-in, it's like, brahmacharya life is giving importance on uh, planned, what we call segregation, means separation. And we all know that example given in the Bhagavatam of butter and fire. Butter, uh, when it is close to fire, it will melt. When boys and girls are together, there's a natural attraction that will be there, and that is meant to be regulated. So, in other words, when we hear, from Bhagavatam, when we hear from personalities like Narada Muni, our Mahajans, those who are authorities. mm, We have 12 Mahajans. they they speak the same message. They explain the basic principles of religiosity. They explain about Dharma, and these principles are are not meant to be changed, isn't it? The whole concept of family life, family in the Vedic culture is something very, very uh, crucial, very important. And family means minimum father, mother, and children. Nowadays, people sometimes want to marry without wanting children. They, they, they think like this, but this is not natural, you know. So, um, one of our important, uh, if not the most important aspect for us as devotees is to Hare Krishna. Suryadev has come out briefly. Is to deepen our understanding. That's called Siddhanta. Siddhanta. What is the actual conclusion that should be there when studying the subject matter of Dharma and how to apply it in different places and in different circumstances. Some things can be adjusted, other things cannot be adjusted. Isn't it? So this is being referred to from the very beginning here in this purport. Um, how we especially uh, can more clearly understand about Dharma through Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is focusing. There's so many verses and that either directly speak about Dharma or that elaborate on different aspects of Dharma. And this is especially important in our context. Our context means we as a society, properly established this society, especially to reintroduce, to reestablish, isn't it, the principles of Dharma. And it's a huge responsibility because the subject matter is very is a very deep subject matter. I will read the verse again. If there's any thoughts or comments on this. So that was 635. And yet others say that you appear to rejuvenate the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshiping, and so on, in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation.
Maharaj, thank you very much. Do you remember if it is documented or established by Shastra that Krishna came because he wanted to have friends and
Wanted to have friends.
yeah, because I've heard quite elaborate classes when devotee explained that first when Nrsimhadev met with Prahlad Maharaj, he he developed a desire um, uh, to have a family, like have a parents. Like he was giving a parental mood for Prahlad Maharaj. He become he wanted to desire the same thing as Prahlad Maharaj has when he was sitting in his lap. So then Nishingadev, as a god, developed the desire. Okay, I want to also become a child in a family. And then he came like Lord Ramachandra. And when he was Lord Ramachandra, he developed two desire to have more female partners and have friends, equals, because that didn't have before that. And then he developed three desires in Krishna's mood, and he was Krishna. So this is established by some shastra, or I don't remember.
I don't recall specifically this.
Amarendra Prabhu have elaborated discuss about the.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of information in different shastras actually, and sometimes devotees who especially maybe specialize in katha, they will very often take things from places that we are less familiar with. Of course, if it's bona fide sources, it's not a problem. But I, I, I'm not familiar with that as such. Yeah.
I will ask them.
Right.
So not just because it's another reason
for the
why
Lord's.
Krishna appeared.
For the Lord's, yeah. You mean to make friends?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we that is connected in many ways with the stated purpose of the Lord's appearance, like in the Bhagavad Gita, to exchange with his devotees, to give pleasure to his devotees, and to give an opportunity. One of the categories of friends who are part of Krishna's pastimes are those who have been in the material world for a long time, but have had the good fortune of coming in contact and have been practicing and are on their way to leave the material world, and they get to be part of Krishna's lila before going back to the spiritual world. So there are different living entities like this who who are part of Krishna's pastimes, who are part of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes as well. So in that broader sense, there might be more specific references. I'm not familiar with them.
The question is that which I heard many times to put, but I don't realize that the answer that Krishna is coming for re-establish the Dharma. And that's true, but he comes at the end of the Dvapara Yuga. So all the Dvapara Yuga have no one who really show what is the essence and the.
Yeah, that's an interesting question also. Yeah. It's like he comes to establish Dharma, and then Dvapara Yuga is finished. Yeah. And Kali Yuga begins.
Kali Yuga have different.
Yeah. But I've not read directly, but there seems to be a direct connection between this pastime of the Lord at the end of Dvapara Yuga to with all of the millions of kings and soldiers and whatnot, Kshatriyas, who were killed in the battle of Kurukshetra, which is like when many like in a war. That was a big war. In a war, when many men die, that means many fathers die, many sons die, right? So that definitely weakens a country when you have a large number of your leaders, because Kshatriyas are the leaders in society, which to me, although I've not read directly, is like one way in which Kali Yuga begins, where you have it's like in the Bhagavatam, up to a certain point, all of the prominent kings are listed, and it's in one purport. Prabhupada explains that after that we don't see names of kings, and Prabhupada explains because all those kings were like Kali Yuga kings. Um, and mostly, for example, one of the reasons we have in modern day society, we have very negative feeling about monarchy is that what we know, most people, the more recent history, let's say that goes back a few hundred or a few thousand years at most, the Kali Yuga kings are all bad kings, and of course um, they're not listed in the Bhagavatam, of course, because Bhagavatam was written by Srila Vyasadeva, 5,000 years ago. So, so it means that, the battle of Kurukshetra either directly or indirectly uh, facilitated the Kali Yuga aspect of unqualified persons to be there, and therefore it's like if we look at the history that is taught in colleges and universities, we see all kinds of abuses of power. I mean that culminated actually in the French Revolution, isn't it? In Europe, in Europe, the French Revolution is a very big historical event, which uh, is also closely connected with the Industrial Revolution, and which is something that took place um, just about, let's say, 200 years ago, 250 years ago, and which is having repercussions or effect even today on how society is organized, or rather disorganized, because in a very simplified manner, but this helps us to understand, especially those who know about, let's say, basic aspects of Vedic culture, the whole, because of abuse of power within the monarchy, number one, and also because of abuse of power within the church 200 years ago in Europe. Uh, so there was a whole rejection, revolt, a little bit like what's happening in Bangladesh maybe right now, or that happens at different times, in the last maybe 10 years or so. Different countries have had uh, like the army taking over the country for different reasons. The point being that there was a rejection of monarchy, which means rejection of kshatriyas, and rejection of the church, which means actually rejection of brahmanas. So we know in the Vedic culture that a society cannot function properly unless there are qualified brahmanas and qualified kshatriyas who actually take guidance from such qualified brahmanas. So being Kali Yuga, of course, I mean, this problem has been there for practically since the beginning of Kali Yuga. It was there during the time of Lord Buddha. That's the primary reason why Lord Buddha rejected actually the Vedas, because the Brahmanas were misusing the knowledge from the Vedas. So it's therefore uh, very very essential for those who want to actually, and that's one of the primary purposes of Krishna and his followers and his devotees, to reestablish the principles of Dharma, to have a clear uh, understanding of those principles of Dharma. And this is the point that is being made here by Srila Prabhupada from the very beginning in the purport, that Dharma is something that is established by the Lord. um, and the main feature in Kali Yuga is that so many people have invented their own systems, which in some other ways as well. So many different ideologies we have seen in the last, like now we are, socialism and Marxism and communism and all of these isms. Prabhupada refers to capitalism. These are all in so many ways actually deviations from the original teachings, and that's why so much of upheaval, so much of problems and complications are there, and to the point that it's like reaching a certain peak in the world today. The world is in a very, very, very critical. Prabhupada spoke about this even like 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when he was writing his purports to the Bhagavatam. The whole introduction of the Bhagavatam is making reference to that. The whole world is in chaotic condition, is primarily because of not understanding about Dharma. And that's a unique feature of Srila Prabhupada as the founder Acharya, and that's why he was able to attract different people, intellectuals as well, to the to how he presented, like the Bhagavad Gita and the whole teachings of the Vedas as not at all being sectarian, not simply as a religion against another religion, but as the science of spirituality, the science of religion, the eternal basic principles of Dharma. So that's why we say, we try to get this point across to as many people as possible. These books are books of knowledge, isn't it? They are universal principles of knowledge that are presented in these books, and therefore it's not promoting a particular religion over another religion. And that's why also when we look at governments, Prabhupada actually explains this point as well, that whatever country it may be, leaders, whether president or prime minister, leaders in a country should not be promoting a particular religion, because then it clashes with another religion. But leaders in all countries should know about the principles of religion. They should know about what is Dharma, because Dharma is universal for everyone. That's why, Prabhupada was very expert in presenting that, and it's all there actually in his books. So anyone who, with an open mind, reads these literatures, then we'll be able to more easily accept this philosophy, and that's why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually predicts that the day will soon come. Actually, that was also restated by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who said that when the books, of course, he was writing at that time, not knowing that that one of his disciples, Srila Prabhupada, would also be writing so many books. So he stated that when this knowledge that is presented in the writings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is basically what Prabhupada has also continued to give and expanded upon, when this knowledge is known to the masses of people, and especially to leaders or to the intellectuals in the world, then the whole world actually will become unified under this knowledge of Sanatana Dharma. And then all of these so-called like differences that exist today between this religion or that religion, etc., they will no longer be there. And that's one of that was Srila Prabhupada's expectation and his expressed desire as well, and his great expectation and desire to distribute this knowledge. Therefore, book distribution was the height or the highlight of the in the early days of the movement, and of course remains and will always remain, because that's one of our primary purposes, to give this non-sectarian understanding to the general mass of people. Yeah. Okay. I think we can close for now. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Prabhupada ki. Koda Primanandi. This is for our